Lobster tail meets layer upon layer of aromatic flavor, heat for a pop of tang, and a touch of cream for a tantalizing and smooth finish. I've gathered everything I'll need to make my lobster bisque: uncooked lobster tail, aromatics, fresh thyme, savory, and bay leaf, carrot and onion for the mirepoix, brandy and white wine for deglazing and punchy flavor, triple concentrated tomato paste for color and flavor, hot smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, and garlic chili sauce for tangy heat and color, half and half for a smooth and creamy finish, and the equipment necessary for a successful bisque. To start the soup's base, I'll begin with the mirepoix preparation. I'm peeling and cutting a single medium-sized carrot into lengths. Then roughly chopping into smaller pieces. Equal size is not important. A rough chop will suffice. Next, the onion. I have 1/2 of a large onion handy. I'll peel and roughly chop the onion as well. Both carrot and onion go into the medium-sized saucepan. 2 teaspoons of butter join the vegetables. Butter or a butter-oil combination is necessary to sauté the carrots and onion, releasing their flavors and creating a golden brown coating on the saucepan's base. In a short while, you'll see why this is essential for a successful bisque. While the carrots and onions sauté over very low heat, I'll prepare the lobster tail. I purchased this small uncooked lobster tail from my local grocers, measuring about 6 inches or 15 centimeters in length. Due to its small size, it fits nicely in a small saucepan. I'm covering the tail with 2 cups of water, then simmering over medium heat for about 5 minutes to gently cook the lobster. I'll cover the lobster saucepan to raise the heat to a simmer. Time to check the mirepoix. I've maintained a very low heat while sautéing the carrots and onions. Butter browns quickly when the heat is raised to speed the cooking process and must be avoided. The carrots and onions are moist, shiny, and fragrant, and the butter remains golden. I must be patient and allow the sautéing process to continue over low heat to develop the perfect flavor. While the lobster simmers and the carrots and onions finish sautéing, I'll measure the brandy, exactly 1 ounce, and collect the ingredients I'll need to make the lobster bisque. I find having everything at my fingertips makes the cooking process a pleasure. This mirepoix looks perfect. The saucepan base has a nice golden brown color, and the carrots and onions are fragrant and softened. The slow development of the golden brown color is a necessary component of the deep, rich flavor of the bisque. Time to deglaze the pan before the butter browns further, creating a bitter flavor note. But first, let's check the lobster. It's been simmering over low heat for about 5 minutes. Nice pink shell and firm flesh. It's ready. As soon as the brandy hits the base of the hot saucepan, the deglazing process begins. See how that lovely browning is liberated from the pan? The browning, along with its delicate flavor supplied by the carrots and onion, joins the brandy. The white wine is next. 2 ounces are added. The fruity flavor notes of this white wine add another layering of flavor and joins the brandy in the deglazing process. Just look at this beautiful soft brown color. The aroma is incredible. While the mirepoix simmers, I'll prepare the lobster tail. Because the tail is small and simmered for just a short time, the flesh remains delicate and soft instead of rubbery and overcooked. After breaking off the tail pieces, I'm cutting through the soft underbelly of the tail with clean kitchen scissors, peeling back the shell and freeing the cooked lobster flesh. This shell remains useful and will not yet be discarded. I'm breaking the shell into smaller pieces and adding them to the simmering saucepan as well as the liquid from the cooked lobster tail. While I've been busy with the lobster, my simmering saucepan broth has mostly evaporated. I should have reduced the heat further or covered it with a lid to prevent the total evaporation that's taken place. The base looks browner than it should be. Let's see how this bisque turns out. Remember this small saucepan that simmered the lobster? The simmering water is full of lobster flavor. I'm adding the lobster cooking water to the sautéed vegetables and lobster shells. I'm reserving some of the lobster cooking water, about 1/2 cup. 2 tablespoons of rice is added to the reserved 1/2 cup of lobster water. I'm covering the rice with a lid to simmer over low heat until the rice is overcooked and mushy soft. You'll see why later. In the meantime, I'll continue making the bisque, adding the aromatics necessary to create layers of flavor notes. Fresh thyme is first, then fresh savory. 1 tablespoon of hot smoked Spanish paprika. You can add regular paprika if you prefer less heat. This spicy paprika adds a significant level of heat. A pinch of cayenne is next. Then a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic chili sauce. And 1 tablespoon of triple concentrated tomato paste for added flavor and color. Just look at this rich brown color. I think I caught the sautéing process before it was too late. Remember the evaporated deglazing liquid and the pan base that looked too brown? Checking the base after a second deglazing from the lobster water, I see a perfectly deglazed base and no burnt areas. The broth is deep brown and fragrant. This bisque is going to be perfect. One last aromatic, a single bay leaf, and this broth is ready to simmer over low heat for 30 minutes along with the rice. After 30 minutes, the rice is mushy and overcooked. I'll grab my Ninja blender cup and transfer the rice and water to the blender cup for pureeing. The cooked rice puree will add a neutral flavored thickening to the broth. The heat created a vacuum in the blender cup. Did you see that sudden splatter when I unsealed the base? A kitchen towel over the base would have prevented the hot rice puree splatter. You can alternatively use an immersion blender if you have one. I'm returning the rice puree to the small saucepan and grabbing my wire strainer for the next step and carefully pouring the simmering mirepoix broth over the strainer. Then pressing the wire strainer contents thoroughly to release all the flavor into the broth. The wire strainer contents are discarded while the broth remains. After returning the broth to the heat, I'll give the broth a thorough whisking to blend in the rice puree. See how the rice puree thickens the broth? Velvety smooth with a rich reddish brown color. Perfect. Next, the cream, 1/2 cup. I'm scalding the cream in my microwave for 30 seconds on high. Warming the cream reduces the chances of curdling and clumping when adding it to the hot broth. I've grabbed my 2-cup measure for 2 reasons. First, I'm straining a second time for an ultra-smooth, lump-free sauce. And secondly, I'm measuring my broth. The broth should equal 2 cups. See the bits and lumps collecting in the small wire strainer? For the smoothest velvety bisque, the lumps and bits must be strained out and discarded. This is a bit of a process, but the result is incredible. I'll add this broth back to a warm saucepan for the final step before serving, the addition of cooked lobster tail. You can chop or shred the lobster. I prefer the look of the shredded pieces. As soon as the lobster tail pieces are added to the warm broth, it's time to serve. But first, let's give this sauce a taste. Some adjustments might be required. A little salt, a small squeeze of lemon. Another taste test. Perfection. It's ready to serve. Let's add a small garnish of fresh herbs. See how the bisque coats the spoon? This bisque has achieved the perfect consistency for maximum lobster bisque spoon-sipping pleasure. And this one's for you. Enjoy! Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the notifications bell to get all the latest under 300 calories recipes.